Charo Garaigorta is a contemporary artist born in the Basque country. She started her career studying fine arts at the UPV, and then her work developed in New York City while furthering her education at Columbia University. She worked in numerous museums in their education departments, such as MoMA, Bronx Museum, and Guggenheim Museum of New York. After moving back to Bilbao, she has been the head of education department at the Artium Museum for almost 20 years. Her art is often influenced by a wide variety of matters like politics, economics, and the terms age and gender, which reflects her diversity of the contemporary world.
My name is Charo Garaigorta and I am an artist and an art educator. I will describe it. When I was living in New York, it was considered conceptual art, but also very much, I work very much like in series of works. I can spend like maybe 5 years working with one thing. For example, when I work with airports, I was drawing and making films during a long period of time. Then I change into another topic and I might change the medium. So formal aspects I'm not very interested in. I have an idea and then I think how I'm gonna work around that. So here we don't use that term so much, but I think I'm a conceptual artist. I don't quite remember, but my mother told me it was like I was 3 and she kept a drawing that I made at 3 with a paper that was used to be, it was wrapped in a closet. So I drew on the back of that paper and she said I was 3, I don't know. I don't remember making a decision. It was something that it was natural, it was there. Like I never thought, oh, should I do this, should I do that? I remember for a while I thought about architecture, but it was because I like it and I used to draw houses since I was very young, and I'm very interested in architecture. I think it's very important. But it's not that, I remember when we were at the end of high school, everybody was having a lot of doubts about what to do, and I never, for me it was very clear that I thought I was an artist already. I guess, yeah, because it was not something that all of a sudden I said I want to be an artist. It was like, oh, this girl is going to be an artist. So everybody knew that was it. And of course, my mother was very sensitive about that. She knew what was to be an artist. And also she always said a woman has to be very strong. You have to be economically independent. You have to choose your life. You have to be brave, and you have to learn English. Those are and I obeyed. I did all what she said, and she was right. I mean, she was very advanced for her age. Well, when I was in high school, I was fantasizing that the university, the School of Fine Arts, was going to be like this wonderful place, and so I survive. My life is like I design fantasies that keep me going. So. What will be next? My next step. So when I went to the School of Fine Arts, back then for me was something very old. It wasn't what I expect for a woman to find all those men with beards, with boots, like always mad, doing a kind of work, sculptures with metals, like they were so archaic. As a woman, I couldn't relate to that, and then at the same time, I was looking tons of art magazines at the library, because the library at the School of Fine Arts was wonderful. And all these American art magazines, I started to see Ana Mendieta, Shindy Sherman. It was on the cover of one of these magazines, and I said, wow, there is another world, like more related to myself, what I'm thinking, and because the other things were very old for me. And very, I'm going to use the word sexy, but at that age, your age, I mean, that was very important, and it was not appealing to me. So then I also fantasize about the perfect university that you learn, that has like this American university that you read. I used to read a lot, and so I felt, no, this university is not what I think the university should be. So I fantasized about going to New York and study there in an American university. Yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, in terms of, I think it's very important to, when you are young and if you want to really be an artist, go to a place that you can learn and go to a place that is, that has everything, not only the museums, the people from all over the world, you know, and, but the most important thing is like, you are yourself. Whatever you're gonna be, you are yourself, because you're not related to any emotional, familiar landscape or people, and you're not expected to follow a path of, I don't know, the Basque formalism, for example, in the university, that even today they keep on following. I think it's very, very important to be yourself, because as an artist, the most important thing is who are you as a person? How do you, the first thing you have to design is yourself. I mean, your work, I knew that very clear when I was at the art school. You're never gonna be a good artist if you're not an interesting person, if you don't really work yourself as a person. That's very important. So New York back then, even today, it was perfect. It was the perfect scenery to meet people, to learn a lot, and also to be alone, thinking who are you and doing the art that you're supposed to do, and not what they tell you to do or what you think is going to be commercial and it's going to make you an artist straight from college, you know, like a factory. That's impossible, you know, like a factory can produce artists like that. No. Yeah, because what happens when you go to a city like New York, that is not even a city, it's a monster, it's something bigger than, you know, like you look at the city and say, oh, it has a life of its own, you know, it's going to start like walking and moving around, and when I make these things, you know, I think very much about New York, like it's a city out of control. So you are forced to have a kind of experience, life experiences, that you know you're not going to have if you are at home or with grants from the government, you know, and doing things like that. I mean, because that's your life, you're choosing your life, you see how you operate in that world, you know. It's very authentic, very scary and very tough, but the good thing is like you're not lying to yourself, you are yourself, with the bad and the good things that you choose. So I think that's very important for an artist, to be exposed and to be very sincere, you know, with what's going on. Well, I don't include the Basque Country and Spain into Western Europe. I think maybe technically in terms of politics we belong to the economical European community, but in terms of art, in terms of education, in terms of how our universities are, we haven't gotten to that level. And this is a critique. I mean, of course, this is a big critique towards the cultural, how do we understand culture here, and how the university, for example, for me, the university here was like a high school compared with what I found at Columbia University in New York. You know, it was like, Jesus Christ, I'm coming from school, I'm not coming from, and I already had a degree from here. So I think like maybe Germany, England, France or Holland had good universities and for the arts. And first of all, a university, if it's an art university, has to have good artists that have been around the world, artists that have done something, you know. Like in the MFA at Columbia University, you find people that they are top, you know. I mean, you cannot go finish in June and start in September being a teacher, you know, like that. And the lack, we don't have, that's very serious, but we don't have authentic art. You know, we are always imitating something else that happens in another place. The government is investing a lot of money to create artists. So we look like we have artists, you know, and we look like we are normal. I mean, the socialist government did that. The CIA did that with the abstract expressionism in the United States, shifting Paris into New York. But the main thing I think is like we don't let students to experiment in art, to be free, to be authentic. I mean, it's what I see here that I don't see in another Western universities or in the United States is here you have to follow, you have to wave, this professor is doing so and so, you have tons, like monkey see, monkey do, doing the same thing. And to be an artist is something very tough, and intellectually you have to have tools, and that's very important. And I don't see here. It seems like your degree. I like it, you know, like the level of experimentation that has, but it has to be more and more. I mean, fine arts is not a joke. It's something very serious, and to have a very strong art world, to a very strong cultural level where you live, it's very important. But that's a government plan, you know. You have to work around the taxes system, you have to work about the education system to understand later on what's going to be culture. You have to organize some sort of like collecting. We don't have collectors, serious collectors, because people don't understand culture because they haven't been educated. So it's like a catch-22, you know, everything. It's related, so there's a lot of work to do there. I think you can learn. I'm positive, but it's there's people that have more tendency, but you can learn. It's a long process, but you can learn, because a lot of also in the decision of being an artist, it's very important the will, the desire. If you have that desire, you're going to work towards, and if you understand that it's a tough work that you have to do, and if you are very authentic and you work really tough, if you're not like copying whatever is fashionable at that moment, or what's the most modern thing there, because if you're always following the most modern thing, you're always going to be really out of fashion because you're not authentic. But if we will have a really serious educational system, both undergrad and grad, and the university, I think is something you can learn. As much as I love New York, that is the city that I really love, and I think it's very important to have an experience to spend some years there for everybody. And I miss it a lot. I thought at that time that I learned a lot, because I had the opportunity, not only as an artist, in the field of arts education. I worked for the education department at MoMA, at the Bronx Museum, at Yeshiva University Museum, which is a Jewish university in New York. Also, many institutions, so I was able to see different methodologies to work with art and within a museum. So when I learned that they were building a museum, like a new museum in the Basque country from scratch, it was from zero. It's not like you apply to a museum that is functional. No, I had the opportunity to design an education department in a museum of contemporary art in the Basque country where I was from. So I thought that was a unique opportunity, and I thought, well, I learned a lot, and I think I have a lot to give doing this, and I also learned that the world was changing, and it changed that it doesn't matter where you live. I mean, you fly here and there, and you know, I have friends there. I go there every year. I spend a month, and I have exhibitions in the United States. So I thought, well, let's do it the other way around. I will be based in the Basque Country and going to New York instead of being based in New York and coming to the Basque Country. So it was a very interesting process to design I mean, it was, again, a big fantasy. What I fantasize about what will be an art education department in the Basque Country was very different than the Basque Country that I found and, and work with. But I'm happy that I was able to do that, and I think it was important back then because there wasn't such a thing as an education department the way I design it in Spain at the moment. Well, that's a very interesting question because everybody has an idea about what an artist is, what art is. Everybody thinks that they can talk about art and with knowing anything, and they also have an idea of a 19th century idea of an artist. Is this romantic idea that an artist is someone very crazy, very individual, that you have all this talent, but you are very isolated and you have some degree of madness or I don't know, some kind of drug or alcohol dependency. Like this dysfunctional person. That's the idea from the 19th century about an artist. And still, I don't know why, but still we think about that, and it's not. I mean, artists are the people that I know that more hard workers. I mean, we really have to work very, very hard because it's a very tough profession, very, very tough. So if you don't work hard since when you start, I mean, you're not gonna. But you work hard very happily because you love what you're doing. So that's the part that people in society, they don't know how much do you work. So we don't starve anymore. Life is very tough, but we don't starve anymore. And also we have a capacity, I've been observing that, to invent our own life. And if we don't find a path and we cannot make our living through here, we design another way, and we have these creative process to invent ourselves many times and to invent our lives and ways to work and survive, that I don't think people in other professions have that capacity. And again, we're going back into education, people don't really know what an artist is, and they have this stereotype of the starving artists, and you'll see you're not going to starve. Probably you're going to have very happy lives, very interesting lives, and you will never starve. I promise. Well, as I mentioned before, I mean, when I was at the School of Fine Arts here, and I was looking at these art magazines, and I bumped into artists like Shindy Sherman or Anna Mendieta. For me, it was like, wow, this is related to me. As an 18-year-old then or 19-year-old, those women were doing things that I like, and it was more interesting than what I was seeing here. So I can understand that, and also I understood how important it is. For example, Anna Mendieta used to say that if she wasn't an artist, she would have been, I don't know, something, I don't remember exactly, but something very strong. And I understood that, that level of direct relationship with your life. So another person that was very important for me was having a mother that was very modern, very learning herself, reading a lot and introducing me into literature, into art, and into being brave and doing whatever I wanted. So I wasn't scared of doing what I did, and that's very, very important. So I'm trying to see at that age what other role models I had. but it wasn't. You see, it was through art magazines, and now we have all the social media and everything. But back then, it was what you read, people that you had around, or yeah. And I found a lot in foreign art magazines back then because I didn't have references. I didn't have role models with the professors and the people that I found at school then. No, I still love those first women that I remember also like finding a book of Lucy Lippard and back then and reading about the relationship of feminism with land, earth, very now could be eco issues, but you know, it's like a puzzle that you put together and now, right now my role models, I don't know if I have them or if I think in those terms anymore. No, it's more that I have an age in which I think I already created myself, and now it's a process of almost decreation, you know, of what is that I haven't done yet, and how do I want to live the rest of my life. But it's not about a role model, now it's my turn. I have to, that's tough work again, you have to think, how are you going to continue, you know, I've got here, what is next, you know, what is, as Americans said, what is the next consecutive step in your career that you should be thinking of that all the time, you know, that's a very important thing to, what's next, to be very current, thinking about that. Right now, immediately, I have this exhibition with the piece that is upstairs. Then in September, with this piece at La Taller, which is a very interesting art space here that you should go. And well, what I hope is to have more time, because now I really realize that I need more time. I work pretty fast, but making these last pieces, I am very interested in how, in this dialectic relationship that you establish yourself with the piece that you're working, and how that moment is very precious, because it's like you're listening what you to this piece, or you listen to the artwork. What is that you need to do? You know, what's the next step? So the process is more interesting than to finish the piece itself, and yeah, I just wish I will have more time to work in the studio. Well, I never knew when I was getting shows and I was invited to very interesting exhibitions to participate in New York. One thing that I realize now is I never thought it was important. You know, I always thought, oh, that's normal. You know, I apply here, they put me in this show, in that show. But coming back here and thinking, oh my God, wow! I had the first year that I went to New York, I had a show at the Bronx Museum. I said, wow. Back then I thought it was normal because I didn't know how the whole thing operates, and now I realize that things that I did very, very young was very important. Those shows may be more important than the ones I'm getting now here, you know, because New York is very brave, and they might see something, or they might see an artist that making something that doesn't look like anything modern or established or whatever you see, and they say, well, yes, you know, they have the courage to identify what it's what they like or what they think is new. Which going back to one of the questions before, here in general is, okay, this artist looks like it's making something that is familiar to me because I've seen. So it's a copy of a copy, you know? You're never gonna find something authentic. And if you see something authentic because it doesn't look like something else, you're gonna miss it. You It's going to happen, but you're going to miss it because you're not ready for it. You don't know how to identify. And that's a big problem. We don't have interesting curators that know how to spot. They don't even do studio visits many times. They work in small circles. And also we don't have art criticism, but that's another thing very important. If you see, no one writes about art. We don't have art criticism in Spain. So that's a big problem. Well, the advice is like it's a very difficult and tough career, that you have to be a very strong person, very strong, because you're gonna have to keep on going no matter what, you know, at moments that you don't have recognition, you don't have, but you are strong enough to keep on going, and or to analyze from whom you are not getting that recognition, so it's almost like you have to do like a very strong psychoanalysis with yourself and be a strong person. But I think it's one of the most interesting professions because you're always learning, and you also have Louise Bourgeois, this artist. She used to say that as the artist you will never be crazy or mad because you have like the antidote to get mad, because making art is a soothing process and working in the arts. So you never gonna get nuts because you have the medicine to be okay all your life. And I agree, because whenever something happens, you go back into your work and you design a mechanisms to get out of that problem, you know. So it's very healthy. I think it's very healthy. What I can advise, enjoy every single moment and be conscious to live every single moment and what it means, that single moment, because you're gonna have very great opportunities, but you have to know that that's a great opportunity and live it and take it. Because I had like tons of great opportunities in Europe, and I thought, oh, that's normal, and I didn't, you know, like right now I would say, wow, get it, you know, instead of let it go. And so yeah, be aware of what's going on around to take advantage and to participate, and also not to let it go when it happens. Yeah. But it's going to be tough, and I'm not lying. I don't want to lie with that. It's going to be very tough.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.